Hi, I'm Rachel, and today I'd like to show you the toy theater that I created especially for children so that they can learn to know, love, and trust God and His Word. Our God is such a good God. He is eternal, He is infinite, He's omniscient, He's omnipotent, He's omnipresent. All these big words are hard for kids to grasp, right? So the idea is that we would tell Bible stories. We would read to them from any version that you want to, or you can use a children's Bible. I have back here behind me a bunch of children's Bibles that we've used. If your children are very young, I suggest using the First Step Bible. It has very, very simple stories like, "Hi, my name is Samuel. I am not a baby anymore. I am a helper to this man Eli. I help Eli when he prays to God. Now it is bedtime. Good night. Everything is dark. Everything is quiet. Oh, but listen, I hear something. Someone is saying, Samuel, Samuel. So you get the point. So there's a variety of children's Bibles out there. My very favorite happens to be the Jesus Storybook Bible. I have it here in English and also in Spanish. It comes in many, many different languages. But this storybook Bible shows the love that Jesus has for each and every one of us here on the earth. And I just love the way it was written. It all points to the Lord and who He is. Because that's really what we want our children to learn, is who God is when we're reading Bible stories. The Bible is not just a self-help book. It is not a book that we pick up and read to find out more about ourselves. It's a book where God has reached down to man and He has righted the relationship. He has made all things new. He has paid our debt and paid our price. So we want our children to learn the goodness of God and His grace and mercy toward us and His salvation for us. So let me show you how the toy theater works. I have here an example of it already built. Whenever you purchase one, it will come wrapped like this and you have to put it together. You basically need a screwdriver or a drill. A drill would be easier. And this is a loose fitting dowel, and you basically just screw these two things in on the bottom. And that's all there is to it. This is loose fitting so that you can take a fabric backdrop. This is the Celestial City from Pilgrim's Progress. And there's a hole, a slot up at top, and you slide it through and then you just hang it on the top. That way you can exchange for any other fabric backdrop. And it's very easy to do. Just make sure that if you have small children like toddlers, that they're not poking each other in the eye with this. Another idea is to take an old sheet that you have and cut it up into strips, and they can make their own theater backdrop by using fabric markers or regular markers if you're not going to wash it. The point is to engage children's minds as they listen to the Bible story. If they're old enough to read, they can read the Bible story and hunt for clues. If they're too young, then you can read the story to them and then read the story to them again as they're playing with the figures. I do sell two different types of figures. I sell them as printables, and they come on a flash drive, or you can purchase individual sets on my Etsy shop, or you can purchase the entire bundle on a giant flash drive like this. And I also sell some of the figures as fabric characters. Now, when I was making them and sewing them, it takes a lot of work to do that. So I have put all of my designs on my Spoonflower shop, which is Pocket Dreams Co. or Pocket Dreams, and you can find that there on Spoonflower, and then you can purchase the different sets that you want and you can sew them yourself at a much cheaper price. I also have some fabric rugs or carpets that show different things that you can lay out in front of the theater. This is an example of the palm branches and the coats that were laid down whenever they cried out, Hosanna to the King. They wanted to anoint Jesus as king the week before He got crucified. This is a Sabbath table. I have some shrouds of when Jesus was crucified. This is a camping rug. I have a various ones. You can see those on my Etsy shop. But this adds to it. You can also have your children make their own on paper. The idea is to get them to engage their minds and to imagine the setting. These were real stories. The stories happened to real people. And so you want to ask the question, who, what, where, when, and how. Ask your children to look for the details in the story. Who wrote the story? Who were they talking to? Who are the main characters in the story? What is the story all about? And what is happening here? What action is taking place? Where did the story take place? What is the setting? What is the environment? Was it in a desert? Was it by a stream, by a river? Is it in ancient Babylon? Is it in first century Israel? and get them to find out clues in the story. You can ask the who, what, where, when did this take place? When was the story written? Because there's a cultural context that if you research that and look into it a little bit, it will help your children understand what was going on at that time. And then how did God's plan take place in these people's life? What was God trying to accomplish? And the big final question is, who is God? What can we learn about God in the Bible stories? So let's look at the characters. When you get the printables, you will print out the sheets, and you can print it out on any type of paper that you want to. This is a glossy cardstock that I had professionally printed, and if you can see, it's a little bit shiny. It's pretty thick. It's not as thick as actually one of the papers that I purchased and printed at home. This is a photo grade paper, but it is not glossy. It is actually very flat. And you can tell the colorings here, they're slightly a little bit more subdued than here on the glossy paper, but they did turn out nicely on the photo paper. You can also choose to laminate your figures. Here are some of the ones that I've laminated, and that way they're very durable, especially if you've got like 2- and 3-year-olds holding the figures. And then make sure that when you do cut them out, you leave a space at the bottom here. And the reason is so that you can stand them up if you want to. Now, you can also make these where they're just to be held and tell a story, or have your children tell the story that way. But you can also take toilet paper rolls, and you can cut little slits on the side, and you can stick these figures in, and they will stand up. This is a lump here. So you can stand them up. And if you have really big figures, you can use 2 of these, one on each end. I think I have one of the big ones over here as an example. Where is it? All right. Oh, so if you have one of the really big ones, you can just use 2 of these toilet paper rolls and then slide them in, and it will stand up as well. You can set up a whole bunch of layers of characters and add more to the story. You can also strengthen the back if you find that they're bending, if you printed them on cheaper paper. I have tried out using popsicle sticks. I've used the tongue depressor, larger sticks. You can also use the skinnier sticks. So I just tape these on. You can also glue them on. And as far as stands go, you can use the leftover bits of cardstock to create 2 little rectangles and put slits there and a slit in the back, and then you can just stand up your characters. They stand up really well if they are a thicker cardstock. Or you can also use these little bamboo skewers that are meant for chicken, fruit, whatever. And you can tape them to that, and you can use a piece of green florist foam. I have one of those. I did not bring it here for this video. And you can stick your figures all about. The danger with this, though, is if you have children who are young, they could hurt each other with the spikes on the bottom. So only use this for the older children. Another idea is to tape them to straws. This is a giant straw. I think they're called champagne straws. Here's a package that I got from Walmart. They're in the party section, and you can tape them at the bottom, and you can also hold them up like this if you're going to make your own shadow box, which I'll show you in a minute. I made a cardboard box theater, and this one works really well to hold in that, and I'll show you that in a minute. So I've showed you now how to make the stands, and if you were wondering if this type of place card holder stand would work, it does not. And I'll tell you why. It's because the angle of the cut is not straight up and down. I considered making some of my own, but I don't have the correct tool to be able to cut the angle to be straight up and down. So this diagonal makes them angled, and they're going to fall over. See? So that doesn't work. So I wanted to show you the fabric characters. This is an example of a character set. This is Daniel, and it has probably about 9 different figures. And here you've got King Darius, you've got Daniel standing up. And the way that you can stand these figures up is just use a toilet paper roll and cut a U shape. Just make sure your U shape is deep enough, because if you don't cut it deep enough, they won't stand up. But they stand up quite well if you give yourself enough space here. You can also make them taller than this. That way you can cut a deeper U shape. These are nice and soft. I filled them with polyfill, so they're safe for young children. And let's see what else. Okay. If you do purchase the flash drive, it just comes in a little plastic box, and then you have to print everything out. I've also included all the backdrops on there, so you can print them out on paper. I've included 3 different sizes in case you wanted to add them to your own fabric, but they are available on Spoonflower. So if you take the flash drive and print them out professionally, they're going to end up in a stack about this size or slightly bigger. This is not the complete set. There's quite a lot of pages. So you may be wondering why I didn't cram them all together and fill up the entire page and skip having a border and all that to save on paper, but I put them as close as possible because you need to have space to leave a little border edge around them. I mean, you could cut them out really close to the body outline if you wanted to, but you also need space at the bottom in order to stand them up. And so that is why I did not just fill the entire page with them upside down and sideways and every which way. I really just love the idea of getting children to be creative and to be able to think outside of the box. And so when they're reading the story, you can ask your children questions like, what do you think the scene looks like? If it's in a desert, what does a desert look like? It's full of sand, right? Are there any trees? If there are trees, what type of trees would they be? What did the houses look like way back when? Did they live in a tent? Did they live in a stone house? And so I created here, out of a piece of cardboard, a simple picture of a tent that maybe Abraham and Sarah would have lived in as they traversed the land. And I looked online for a few pictures of some tents, found out that they were made of typically of black goat hair, and that would have provided the warmth. They also could have layered several layers in case it got cold at night, and they would put all their belongings inside. They had supports stuck into the sand, so thus I made this. Now, how do you get this to stand up? I cut out 2 stands out of cardboard, and all you have to do is just insert it here and here, and it stands up quite nicely on its own. So you see that this theater, the sky is the limit as far as what kind of props you can make. I also made a lot of other scenes to add to it that I think are a lot of fun. I created a moon, some trees. You can have fun with this. Here's a mouse, some flowers, a castle, trees, some more trees. I mean, you don't have to make them look green if you don't want to. Here's a mountain. It could be a volcano. Here's some more bushes and trees. Just have fun. I used the paints that I had on hand at the time, and then I went and got some more from the store. You can use those little $1 acrylic paints that they sell at your local Walmart or craft store. Here's another tent, by the way. I created some waves for all the boat stories that happen in the Bible. And so the sky's the limit. You'll just need to help your kids in cutting out the cardboard because I did use a box cutter for these. I think cutting with scissors is a little more difficult, but they can also make props just on regular copy paper. Just pull out all of those art supplies and let your children have a lot of fun retelling the story in their own words of the greatest story ever told. Is told in the Bible. So now if you have a little bit of time on your hands, I wanted to show you the cardboard box theater that I created. This is made from an Amazon box. Yep, a regular Amazon box. So basically what I did is the back was already taped, so I turned it over and I taped the front. I taped a strip across the front, and then I cut out the center portion. And then in the hole, I taped it with duct tape going around so that the edges would be smooth here. And I don't think I even taped the top because I knew it was going to cover it up. And then I used some spare cardboard to create a decorative top for this, as well as this bottom panel here. Then I pulled out my house paint and painted everything gray, and I used my little acrylic paints and I painted a lot of decorations on top. Then I turned it up here and cut out a section here so that I could reach in with the straw. Remember when I showed you this? So you can put your figures up here and have it be more like a puppet theater, and you can have your figures moving around. You can hold several. You can have other kids holding. You can only hold like 2 or 3. You can hold like maybe 2 in each hand. But this is a fun way to retell stories. And you also, I can't see it right now because I'm not standing up, so you would want to stand up when doing this. But I also put a hole on the sides here so that I could slide a wood dowel and a backdrop in here. So first I need to insert this stick, and then I'm going to feed it onto the backdrop. And I need to put it through the hole over here. And just make sure you leave a little bit of extra on the edges so that it doesn't fall through. And there you have your backdrop inside the theater. You can also use like those little mice figures or dolls or whatever you have, and just have a lot of fun telling stories. You can also create little things that you can dangle from the top. You could hang this on a string to add more atmosphere. I've also created what I call story theater, and I have done the Pilgrim's Progress story pack, which you can download as printables. I've also done Gladys Aylward, Corrie ten Boom, and Harriet Tubman. And you can create characters for any of the stories that you want to tell your children. That's the fun of all this, is that once you get your creative juices going, there's so many different ideas that you could do. So I hope this makes sense, and if you have any questions, you can just message me in the contact me form and just ask questions there. I think that's the best way to probably reach me. Or you can DM me on Instagram if you have any questions about how to make this, or just any general questions. I hope that you and your children have a lot of fun together, making all these wonderful props and telling stories together and making memories and learning all about God. You're also allowed, by the way, to use the printables for your Sunday school class or for homeschool classes, but I just ask that you don't sell them. Anyway, I'm so glad that you and your children are going to be creative, and I'm just really excited. And actually, I'd love to see pictures of what your children make. And if they do create a box theater, or if they make props of their own, just post some and tag me, Rachel Schmiedel, so that I can see on Instagram, or send me an email with some photos. I would love, love, love to see what they're making. This is my cat. She likes the box too. So thanks for watching, and now go make some art today. Perfect box for you, huh? Look at you. You're sweet, huh?